It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Welcome in. Good morning. It's Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. Sean, you can do the shot that I always brought up a lot last year. Right there it is. Yeah, empty desk here today. You'll see Alex White tomorrow morning on the show. We have a good one lined up for you, though. Shorty for us today because Gone Racing comes your way at 10 o'clock. Brennan Gone, Jeff Motley gets you ready for the week in NASCAR. Where are they this week? They're in Atlanta. They're at the Quaker State 400. Oh, I didn't know Quaker State was still around. Great wings for Quaker State. All right. We're thrilled to be with you because, guys, we've made it. The countdown's hit 0. We're 0 day. Yeah, there it is. Very good. Very good. Sean is applauding. He's wailing in a positive way behind the glass as we have made it to opening night of the National Football League season. And we are very happy to be here all football season long here on Sports by the Book. And we'll start off with the game tonight. It's Kansas City. It's Baltimore. We've been talking about it since May when the schedule was released back in the middle of May. The defending champion, Kansas City Chiefs, of course, winners of 2 straight Super Bowls, winners of 3 out of the last 5 Super Bowls, look to become the first team ever to three-peat in the Super Bowl era. Patrick Mahomes and company, they'll be without Hollywood Brown, one of their big additions this offseason at the wide receiver position tonight. Injured his shoulder in the first preseason game, still not quite ready. Expected to be back next week when the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Cincinnati Bengals at Arrowhead Stadium. The way this game has moved, at least from a betting perspective, before we get into what I like tonight and also the full season perspectives of both of these teams, the teams that met in the AFC title game a year ago, this opened at 3 behind us. Chris and company took a large 6-figure bet on Baltimore in early June, and that moved the line to 2.5. That was on June 6th. 6-6. Is that the Devil's Day? 6-6, right? I guess so. We need one more 6 somehow. 18 in blackjack with 3 6s, your Devil's hand. It has not moved. Has not moved. It's been 3 months. Has not moved. This number behind us at the South Point. Now, that's not to say it hasn't moved elsewhere, where we saw a lot of 3 until about 7 minutes ago, when a few books in town, including, we'll take Square and Sharp books here, for example, including BetMGM and Caesars and Circa and Westgate, moved from 3 to 2.5. All juices varying on the book. It is juice to the Kansas City side. All shops available right now, except for behind us. This is still the only flat. Of course, as we know, Chris and company only do this on minus 110. There's a flat behind us. It's the only one in the Las Vegas market right now on Kansas City, minus 13 at Superbook, minus 20 at Circa. There's still some 3s out there that are even money. This is the best number if you want Kansas City anywhere right now on the spread at 2.5. That total has not really moved at all either. Started at 47, went down to low as 46 2 days ago, and now has come back up a half point this morning to 46.5. Now, let's start with that total. We're dealing with 2 teams that had high-end defenses a year ago. We're dealing with Baltimore, who led the league in points allowed, sacks, and turnovers created a year ago, which you expect some regression from being an elite defense most of the time. But that's not the reason that I would lean to the under here in this game. And there is a 47 in the market, by the way, on Circa on this. Baltimore's biggest thing this offseason, they added Derrick Henry. I don't know how much left Derrick Henry has left in the tank at this point, but he is an upgrade over the combinations of Edwards and Dobbins and all the other running backs they were running out there the last few years. But the offensive line is not the same. 3 new pieces on that Baltimore Raven offensive line entering the season. Yeah, Tyler Lindenbaum, all-world center, still there. Ronnie Stanley, when he's on the field, is, we know, still one of the best left tackles in the National Football League. But you lose three other starters. You trade Morgan Moses. You lose John Simpson. You lose your other guard as well. You lose Zeitzler, who'd been there forever. You replace them with Andrew Voorhees at left guard, Daniel Lala at right guard, and Patrick McCarry at right tackle. And when you have such a run-heavy offense, well, yeah, I know it didn't happen in the AFC title game. But when you have such a run-heavy offense and you're going up against a defense that, yeah, Kansas City's defense looks a little different. L'Jarius Sneed, of course, their best secondary, arguably their best secondary piece a year ago, is now a Tennessee Titan. They signed and trade him during the offseason. But Chris Jones is still there. Carl Loftus is still there. Nick Bolton, who seems to be forgotten in that Kansas City defense, still there. Now Trent McDuffie moves to the outside. Who, again, I think Trent McDuffie is one of the most underrated corners in the NFL. You're going up against a really difficult defense week one for Baltimore. And Baltimore's defense is still a high-end defense. You can get a 47. I like this under 47 because the defenses I expect to be in front of these offenses that still may end up being two of the three, maybe even four best offenses in the NFL. But those changes on Baltimore's offensive line also leads me to leaning to Kansas City here at 2.5 at home. They lost in this spot a year ago. That's going to be fresh in everybody's mind. I get it. But remember how that game played out last year? Detroit did nothing on offense most of the game. Kadarius Toney cost Kansas City a touchdown for sure and at least 3 other points off the board. Of course, Kadarius Toney no longer on the roster. The Chiefs released him in final cuts. It's Mahomes. It's a home game. It's, to me, equal defenses and a huge offensive line advantage to Kansas City. The fact that we can lay less than 3 in this game, I'm kind of floored by it. At 3, it would be a little bit harder to lay, but at 2.5, especially behind us here at the South Point, definite lean and will be a play after the show on Kansas City. There's now the fact that the market's 2.5 out there. I don't expect that one to move behind me here on Kansas City. Also here at the South Point, the props will have these numbers on Football Frenzy coming your way at 3 o'clock. Behind us here at the South Point, all these team-related props that Chris and company put on every primetime game. And, of course, going into the year, just a quick update on the futures book. Baltimore, a plus 150 favorite behind us to win the AFC North yet again. Cincinnati right under tails. All right, I guess maybe under beaks if we're talking about birds. Plus 160 on Cincinnati. Cleveland, who was the long shot in this division for the bulk of the summer, is now hot Pittsburgh, plus 525 and then plus 550 on the Steelers. And then the AFC West, we know Kansas City, big favorite yet again, $3 behind us. Chargers plus 450, Raiders 9-1. Save your money, spend it on something else. Denver at 22-1. I know that at BetMGM, Denver has been the most heavily bet to make the playoff team in the NFL. I think we're getting out in front of ourselves on them. I still don't think that team's particularly good. I don't have them power rated last anymore in the AFC like I did a month ago, but I still have them power rated second worst in the AFC going into this season. Of course, the Chiefs, the favorites to win the AFC yet again, plus 250. Baltimore at 5-1. Bengals and Houston both sitting at 7-1. Buffalo at 8-1. The Jets, the Dolphins at 10-1. Pittsburgh at 12-1, too short. Cleveland at 18-1, and then the rest 25-1 and longer. And of course, the Chiefs, yet again, your betting favorites to win the whole shebang yet again, as low as 4-1 in the market, as low as 3-1 in the market behind us, and as high as about plus 550 is the highest number I saw when doing the final touches of this show earlier in the day. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, thrilled to have this guest on with us. He's the new co-host of You Better You Bet on BetQL. It's our good friend, Femi Abebefe, joins us next here on Sports by the Book.
Have you always wanted to enter the biggest and best football contest in Las Vegas, but didn't know where to start and who to trust? Look no further than footballcontest.com to get the info you need to succeed, including breakdowns of the most popular and highest-paying football contests in the world, such as the Westgate Super Contest, Circus Sports Million, and Circus Survivor. Plus, Find out how you can reserve the most trusted proxy in the business right now at footballcontest.com, as Maddie and Tony have been leading the way for over a decade with more than $10 million in winners during that time frame. All you need to do is find a way to get to Vegas sometime this summer and sign up for these football contests in person. Then let Maddie and Tony do the rest. They will submit your picks for you and help you focus on doing what you do best, picking winners. Don't miss out on the action this upcoming football season. Experience matters. So go with the pros at footballcontest.com. That's footballcontest.com.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Jeff Parles, happy to be with you as always. It is opening day in the National Football League. It's Christmas morning in September. And now joining us, he's now the co-host, along with Nick Costas, over at You Better You Bet on BetQL. You can hear it from 3 to 7 Eastern Time over there. It's our good friend Femi Abebefe with us right now here on the show. Femi, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, good to see you as well, Jeff. Glad to see that you're doing well. Happy opening day to you, as it is Christmas morning for us here, us football junkies. We had the college football a little appetizer the last couple weeks, but now the big boys get back onto the field. So I cannot wait for tonight's Ravens-Chiefs game. And we're getting some line movement, so it's a really interesting game and now a really interesting betting market as well.
Well, again, we can only fade Florida State for so many weeks in a row, Femi. So I'm happy to see the pro game back here tonight. And let's just start. Like you just said, we're seeing some movement here this morning on this game, as it's now 2.5 across the board here in Vegas. The only flat 2.5 still behind me here at the South Point. Kansas City, I mentioned in the open, I lean to KC at that 2.5. I just have too many concerns about that Baltimore offensive line coming into week 1 with 3 new pieces facing a high-end front 4 for Kansas City. Femi, what way are we looking here on your end for this game?
Yeah, and we're not leaning on this side. We're loving the Kansas City Chiefs. I've laid 2.5. I made the drive to the South Point from Summerlin to go ahead and lay that 2.5 at -110. I didn't think that we were going to get here pretty much across the board. You mentioned how there's some other spots that have 2.5 that is juiced a little bit towards the Kansas City Chiefs, so it's not that flat 2.5. But I like Kansas City in this game. It's for a lot of the reasons that you outlined in the last segment. The Baltimore Ravens, when they have the ball on offense, that offensive line, and I'm sure that offensive line will work out the kinks, and throughout the course of the season will get better. But in this particular spot, opening night in a hostile environment at Arrowhead Stadium, which is one of the more toughest places to play in the National Football League, I like Kansas City in that spot because I think that O-line having to deal with those Steve Spagnuolo blitzes and all that he throws at you, I think that's going to be kind of an inflection point in this game for Baltimore's offense, which has kind of failed to sort of crack the Kansas City Chiefs defense code. I know they had one game in 2021 where they were able to put up a lot of points, but that was a Chiefs defense that wasn't as good. The Chiefs defense is now their calling card. If you remember the playoffs last season, like the defense is what kept them in a lot of those games and what ultimately won them the game in Baltimore this past January in the AFC title game, that one being 17-10. So I really like the Spagnuolo defense against that offensive line that has 3 new starters. And then on the other side of the ball, when Kansas City is on offense, I think Baltimore's defense is just going to take a little bit of a step back. Not a huge step back. I don't think they're going to be bad, but there has to be some kind of drop-off with Mike McDonald going on to Seattle to be the head coach of the Seahawks and Zach Orr stepping up to be the new DC for Baltimore. And I usually trust the Ravens organization whenever they promote from within, because the Ravens have shown us time and time again they're a quality first-class organization. But in this particular spot, in his first game calling plays, going up against, on the other side, one of the greatest offensive minds this game has ever seen in Andy Reid, and the greatest quarterback in the game currently in Patrick Mahomes. That is a very, very tall task. It'll be an uphill battle for the Baltimore Ravens. When you think about all the second half adjustments, all of those types of things, it's Andy Reid with extra time to prepare all offseason. I don't really like the setup for Baltimore here in this spot. So I disagree with the move here on game day with the money coming in on Baltimore and all those threes going away. I like Kansas City laying the 2.5 in this spot. I think the Chiefs win this game. It'll be close. It'll be competitive because both teams are really good. But at home with Patrick Mahomes, I'm going to go ahead and rock with the Kansas City Chiefs laying the 2.5.
And Baltimore does not have their Kansas City's non-secret weapon to help them anymore. Kadarius Toney, of course, last year.
Yeah,
hey, look, he's got. Well, I mean, again, I just wonder how much of. And again, obviously, the Super Bowl is the last thing that happened. But last year, week one, Kansas City goes out, loses as a bigger favorite than this to Detroit. I just wonder if there's some people that have that game stuck in their heads still on this, because everything you said, I echoed in the first segment, Femi. I'm stunned this has been bet back to below 3 yet again. Really have.
Yeah, it's really strange. And if people are factoring in last year's game, you also have to take into account the proper context of Chris Jones was in the stands 100%. With his agents watching the game because he was still trying to figure out his contract. Travis Kelce was on the sidelines, inactive, dealing with the ankle injury. It was Mahomes and friends out there last year against the Detroit Lions in that game. And the betting market was very bullish on Detroit. That closed 4, and the Lions ended up winning that thing outright. I don't really see that happening, despite Baltimore having the revenge on the mind and all that stuff after what happened in the AFC title game. I think Kansas City knows that it is imperative to get off to a good start this year, especially when you look at their schedule. Weeks 1 and weeks 2, they play both Baltimore and Cincinnati at home those first 2 weeks of the season. If they can win both of those games, that gives them the upper hand when we start talking about tiebreakers later on in the season in December and January, when we start trying to figure out seeding in the AFC playoffs. So I think the Chiefs recognize that, they know that, and they're going to take care of business tonight, in my estimation.
Femi, let's go to a game with 2 young quarterbacks. Caleb Williams is obviously making his NFL debut on Sunday. Will Levis, his first opening day start for Tennessee. Femi, this is a game where I'm going to defer to you 100% because no result would surprise me one bit with the unknown factors of these quarterbacks. The market is like Tennessee, as high as 5, now down to 4 behind us on this one, with the Bears as the favorite at home.
Yeah, I think this is going to be actually one of the more exciting games of that early window. The market also likes the over. So if you like points, you have fantasy players in this game, you like props, I think this could be a game that you want to identify as one where we see a lot of points, because I think both offenses will find success and both defenses come in with some big question marks, despite what we saw with Chicago at the second half of last season post Montez Sweat trade. But for me, this is just a classic play against a rookie quarterback in his first start. And I think Caleb Williams is going to be a terrific quarterback. Like, he's the favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year for the reason. He was the number 1 overall pick for a reason. Heisman Trophy winner at USC. A big-time high school recruit. Like, he checks all the boxes in terms of pedigree, but he doesn't have to be awesome in year 1. And he especially doesn't have to be awesome in his first ever NFL game. Like forget all the preseason stuff. Like, this is his first ever NFL game. And it just is a learning process for a lot of these quarterbacks. There's a reason why the last first overall pick to go ahead and win a game outright was David Carr back in 2002 against my Dallas Cowboys. Now, this isn't a traditional team that had the first overall pick. This, of course, was given to them with the trade with the Carolina Panthers. Panthers had the worst record. The Bears were more so like picking 9th or 10th or whatever their pick ended up being a little bit later on. But I think that just the fact that Caleb Williams having to, I guess, exceed expectations and win by at least a touchdown or so to cover this number, it's just, I don't see that happening with this spot here, just given the fact that he's a rookie quarterback and has to go through some of those kinks there. So I like the Tennessee Titans offense as well. I think Will Levis, a volatile player, he can turn the ball over, but he can also make big plays. He's going to push the ball down the field. And Brian Callahan, with his dad, Bill Callahan there, could help shore up that offensive line. And if they can shore up the offensive line, maybe we can see a little bit better of a Will Levis than what we saw last season, when it felt like he was getting his head knocked off anytime he dropped back. So I think the Titans going to be a frisky offensive team. Defensively, they have their issues, definitely. But whenever you have an offensive team that is live and they're getting more than a field goal, I'm always going to gravitate towards that, especially when on the other side we have a rookie quarterback making his NFL debut.
Tennessee, as you mentioned, new head coach in Brian Callahan. I agree with you on the Bill Callahan point. They go from one of the mediocre offensive line coach to arguably the best one in the NFL. And that only can help a young quarterback, like you said. Femi's on Tennessee plus the 4 against the Bears on Sunday afternoon. Let's go to Monday, though, because Jets and 49ers, hopefully Aaron Rodgers completes a pass this go-around, unlike last year, for my blood pressure's sake.
Yes.
Behind us, so market low's actually behind us on both the side and the total. Niners are 4 behind us, and the total's at 43.5. There's a lot of 4.5 out there, and there's a lot of 44 on the total out there, Femi.
I don't really know what to do with the side with this game. I could see any sort of outcome, it would not surprise me. Similar to you with Bears Titans, I'm sort of this way with the Jets and the Niners. If the Jets won in blowout fashion, I don't think I would be surprised because that roster is awesome. If the Jets won close, obviously would not be surprised. If the Niners won close or in blowout fashion, I would not be surprised. Like, I think that everything is on the table in terms of the side. So I'm going to go ahead and steer clear of that, at least as it stands right now. And I gravitate towards the total. I like this game to go under. I'm going to play under 44 being one of the key numbers in totals in the NFL, because I have respect for both defenses. Now, the Niners defense can be a little bit shaky, but I also think with Rodgers coming off the Achilles at his age with no preseason, I think there's going to be some kinks that the Jets have to work out early in the season offensively, even though on paper it looks really good. And this is the healthiest that offense is probably going to be when you factor in the guys that they have on that offensive line, this being week 1. And then on the flip side of it, the Niners and their offense has been not in shambles throughout this offseason, but it's been in flux with all the contract sagas that they finally got done. Trent Williams is back. He's practicing now. Brandon Ayuk got done last week. McCaffrey's now back from the injury, but these guys have missed a large chunk of training camp. Trent Williams missed all of training camp, just showing up this past week to go ahead and get his reworked contract. So I could see both offenses sort of struggling, just given the fact that they're not going to be clicking on all cylinders here in this game. And both defenses, especially that Jets defense, it's what's not to like about that Jets defense. They were just so good up front, in the middle with the linebackers, and on the back end, they have really good DBs. I think the Jets can make things difficult for Kyle Shanahan and this 49ers offense, to where I see this maybe being like a 23-20 kind of a game, 20-17. I think it's going to be really entertaining.
Oh, all right. We'll see.
Play out between those two teams, liking the under 44.
All right, Femi, we lost you there for a second, but we got the crux of the bet there, under 44, because Femi, and you said it there, I think it's defense 1 against defense 2 in this game. I really do, with the Niners and the Jets. I would be with you on the under, the only way I would look to play this, because as you said, anything sidewise in play, and would not surprise me one bit. With these two teams, especially, again, the Niners. I know they get Ayuk and Williams back, but it takes a while to get into football shape and such for those two guys.
Yep.
Let's go to the Battle of Florida. This is actually one of the more interesting games that I felt like has kind of flown under the radar this summer, because everyone's eyeballs have been on the primetime games and the game in Brazil, the Brazil game as well. But behind us, it's the only flat 3.5 right now in the market. The rest is 3.5 with the juice on the underdog Jaguars here in Vegas. Total's 49. These are two teams that if you told me they both missed the playoffs, I wouldn't be shocked. If you told me they both were in the playoffs and winning their divisions, I wouldn't be shocked either. There's a high variance for both Jacksonville and Miami going into the season, Femi.
Oh, definitely. And I think if at 3, I would lean towards the Miami Dolphins, just because that offense is really good. And Mike McDaniel does a terrific job of providing some new wrinkles every time, especially early on in the season. The Dolphins, it feels like they're always at their best in September and October, because the league is sort of playing catch up to what they're running. And maybe they start figuring things out in November and December, and then injuries start to sort of kick in for this team. And that's when the Dolphins come back to the pack a little bit. But I like the over in this game. I'm surprised that we've seen money come in on the under throughout the week. I believe there's a 48.5 that's out there. I haven't bet it yet because I want to see, hey, do people still have interest coming in on the under, to where I'm going to try to get the best number possible and bet this game over, because I'm bullish on both of these offenses, at least in the early part of the season. Like, what more can you say about Miami's offense? Tua led the league in passing last year. He might not be one of the better quarterbacks in the league, but he's competent, and that's all that offense needs when you have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, the speedy running backs, and Mike McDaniel coordinating the thing on the sidelines as the head coach. So I think you'll see that Dolphins offense have a lot of success, but also I think Jacksonville's offense can have success in this game as well, just given the fact that Miami has those injuries up front at the edge rusher spots. Now, Jalen Phillips, he sounds like he's good to go, but I'm assuming he's probably going to be on some kind of a pitch count in this game. And then Bradley Chubb, he's on the PUP list, so he's going to miss at least the first 4 games this season. So I don't see really much of a pass rush, dictating in this game. And And I think that we're going to see both offenses with Trevor Lawrence, too. He's coming off a season to where he faced a lot of criticism, got the big contract this offseason. I think that there's urgency in Jacksonville, and the reports that you hear about their rookie wide receiver, Brian Thomas Jr., it sounds like they have a legitimate number one wide receiver who might even be an upgrade over what they had with Calvin Ridley last season. I think you're going to see the Jags make an effort to push the ball down the field because that's been the knock on Lawrence. A low yards per attempt, more check down, trying to get the ball out of his hands because the offensive line has been shaky. They addressed the O-line in free agency. I think they're going to push the ball to try to make bigger plays down the field. And I think Miami's going to give you what they typically do on offense as well with that high-flying offense. So I see this being a high-scoring game, one of the more entertaining games in that early window on Sunday. So I like over 48.5 or better if you can find it out there between now and kickoff.
Femi, before we let you go, I know you have a nice portfolio of them, but what is your favorite futures bet that you've made this summer leading into the season?
Yeah, we've made a couple of futures bets in the awards and the futures markets, but for me, honestly, it's the Los Angeles Rams to win the division, the NFC West. That's at plus 350. Anything above 3-1, I think, is a good bet, just because I think that this quarterback head coach combination of McVay and Stafford, they have more left in the tank. And that offense, I think, has the potential to be a top 5 offense this season, given the fact that when they're healthy, that O-line is going to be ground and pound. They're going to go ahead and be efficient and try to make plays over the top. So you can have an efficient run game, which helps in the red zone. You have Stafford, who can make explosive plays in the passing game. Cooper Kupp, it sounds like he's sort of beat the hamstring issues that have plagued him over the last couple of years. If he can get back to what he's been like in the past, that offense is going to be really dynamic. And then also that defense, while young and while missing maybe the greatest defensive player of all time in Aaron Donald, they have some young defensive linemen that are really good. I mean, they have 2 guys last year who are in the running for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Then they added 2 more guys early on in the draft with Braden Fisk and Jared Verse. So I think the Rams defense will be a little bit better than what people think, despite the loss of Aaron Donald to retirement. And then offensively, what's not to love with McVay and Stafford at the helm. So I like the Rams to knock off the 49ers. That Super Bowl hangover comes and gets San Francisco. The Rams to win the NFC West and maybe even represent the NFC at the end of the season.
Feels like every other than the year that they actually won it, the Rams have kind of floated under the radar going into the season. I like the play, Femi. I in my season prediction, I had the Rams and the Niners with the same record. So there you go. Just win the tie break and get the division behind us. It's 3-1 on LA here at the South Point. Femi, of course, the co-host of You Better You Bet, noon to 4 Pacific time on BetQL. Femi, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Hey, no problem. Good luck with the bets, everyone, and happy opening night in the NFL. I can't believe that we've waited all summer, but it's finally here.
It's awesome to have it back. Femi Abebefe, everyone. It's awesome to have Femi on here this morning. All right, before we get out of here today, we'll check in with Ryan McCormick in a few moments, but I want to go through today's baseball before we bounce on out of here today. The Diamondbacks and the Giants up first. Diamondbacks have taken the first 2 games of this series. They are a dog here today with Merrill Kelly against Blake Snell, who Blake Snell has arguably been the best pitcher in the National League the last 3 weeks. From minus 152 to minus 144 on San Francisco, the biggest thing is the totals moved from 7.5 to 7, juice to the over. At 7.5, I did like this under, even with some significant juice at $1.25. Now, let's see if we can get a 7.5 before the game starts. Right now, this is a pass. Arizona enters the day still in that second wild card in the National League. Going to Atlanta and Colorado. Braves have taken the first 2 in this series against the Rockies. Braves enter today a half game in front of the Mets in the National League wild card chase for that final one. Austin Gomber, Reynaldo Lopez, your pitching matchup. This moved, but it's back to the original number now. Minus 280 on Atlanta, plus 240 on Colorado. Total's gone down from 8.5 to 8. I know I went to the well yesterday and it didn't work. I'll go back to the well yet again today and take Colorado plus the 240. I just at some point, Atlanta's offense is going to come backwards to what it's been all season long. And look, Reynaldo Lopez has been awesome this year, but I think this is just too steep of a price for Atlanta, who should probably be in about that 220 range, not 280 range. A begrudging play on Colorado in that one there in Cobb County. The Twins and the Rays, Pablo Lopez, Taj Bradley, your pitching matchup at St. Pete in the Trop. Twins still in that 5 hole in the American League. They're minus 144 today with Lopez. Total of 7. Rays have taken 2 of 3 so far in this series. It would be a lean to the under in this game at 7 with 2 pitchers I actually like, even though the numbers on your screen don't necessarily dictate that they're having particularly great seasons. I think that Lopez, as we know, was struggled at the beginning of the year, much better as the season's gone along. Bradley's gotten a little bit unlucky so far this year. So this would be a lean to the under with the Rays and the Twins. And then the last 2 that we're looking at today in the baseball slate, the interleague games. How about this? The Houston Astros, who gave up 9 in the first inning yesterday, just cannot beat the Cincinnati Reds. Just can't beat them for whatever reason. And the Reds have owned the Houston Astros. The last time the Astros have beaten the Reds is 2016. No, Cam, no expert. That's 8 years ago. And now they play every year. So it's been a long time since the Astros have beaten the Reds. Will today be the data that ends with Hunter Brown on the mound as a minus 155 favorite? Yeah, it's in play. Plus 145 on Cincinnati. I would be looking to a total in this game. I'd be looking to bet this game over the 9 at Great American Ballpark in a game that starts at the top of the hour. And then the last one, the Padres, Padres' 4th comeback of 5 or more this year when they've shut out their opponent the remainder of the game when they've been at that certain deficit. 3 of them down 5-0. Come back and win, one of them 8-0 at the beginning of the year. Optus stats on that. Casey Mize and Martin Perez. Casey Mize, that's a name it's kind of got lost in the abyss, the former number 1 overall pick out of University of Florida. This would be a lean to the over at 8.5. Don't like either of these pitchers in this game. That would be the only lean, looking at 8.5 over on the Padres and the Tigers. Padres going for the sweep, trying to really put the Tigers away since Detroit actually got into a tie with Boston entering today's action for that first team out of the American League playoff chase. There are a few other games in baseball that I don't see any value on. Phillies are minus 215 against the Marlins. The Pirates are minus 110 against the Nats. Pirates get no hit by Ryan's Cubs yesterday in a combined no-no at Wrigley Field. The A's and the Mariners, Brian Wu is a minus 148 favorite or minus 147 favorite at the Coliseum with a total of 7.5. And then the Rangers are minus 180 with Chase and Bradford against the Angels, plus 165. All right, let's bring him in. Our good friend Ryan McCormick. Punchlines. What do we have there? What's the shirt?
It says Shota Mania for
Makes sense.
The guy Shota Imanaga, who threw the 7 no-hit innings, finished off by the 2 relievers yesterday against
Very
the Pirates.
nice. Very nice. Two relievers. One of them wasn't even on the team 2 weeks ago as well.
Yeah, it's also the first combined no-no in Major League Baseball history to be started by a rookie and ended by finished by a rookie. So
look at you. You're going to get that on Punchlines as well.
Yeah.
I know that.
A bunch of good stuff involving that one on Punchlines.
You and Frank today. I'm with you guys on Fridays moving forward. Yep. So I know you have a stacked show here on this Thursday, though.
Yep. Yeah, well, today it is NFL Christmas. We do get a NFL game tonight in the Chiefs and Ravens game. Today we will have Dennis Evans, Kansas City sports reporter, giving us a little insight on what it's like to be in Kansas City for this game, what the vibe is, and what he expects for the Chiefs this season. And then towards the end of the show, the legend in Las Vegas, Vinny Magliulo, will join us to talk about this game as well and some other things in the NFL world and college football world going into the weekend. So you got to come by at noon to get that on Punchlines, at Punchlines FN on YouTube.
Punchlines FN on YouTube. And don't worry, that's not just the last show of the day here.
Nope.
Here in the studio. Make sure you're watching us. If you're watching us right now on Sports by the Book, thank you. Make sure you hit the subscribe button because our new schedule starts today. Double header here for Sports by the Book at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 o'clock Eastern. Sports by the Book Football Frenzy comes your way. We'll look at all things Chiefs and Ravens. We'll also give out what we are looking at this season, go through the futures books. I'll have my power ratings for both the NFL and college football coming your way at 3 o'clock. We'll have Tom Viola of Unabated to see what the unabated numbers are popping as good bets for this week in the NFL. And we'll also have Dwayne Colucci coming your way this afternoon. Sports by the Book, Football Frenzy, 3 p.m. right here on the Sports by the Book YouTube page right now at Sports by the Book, if you are now following us on all of our social medias. Gone Racing comes your way at 10 on the South Point Studio channel. Jeff Motley, Brendan Gahn, get you ready for this week. The Quaker Stake race in Atlanta Motor Speedway coming your way at 10. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again at 3 o'clock this afternoon right here on the Sports by the Book channel. This has been Sports by the Book.